for various reasons. I'm in the process right now of rebuilding or building a custom object that is going to mimic the order object. Do you see any issues with coming from a standard opportunity with the standard CPQ and going to a custom object that is mimicking the order object and not the actual order object?
This is a good place to start the call. All right, let's summarize. We want to create a custom object, presumably called order, I imagine. Is that correct? We'll call it.
It's order two. Let's call it order two.
Okay. So we're creating a custom object called order. What is the function of the object?
It is truly just a holder. We're not going to be doing any calculations on it. All the calculations, for the most part, are going to be done on the opportunity level. So getting to the order level, there should be no issues with adding at that point, or any calculations, or adding of any product or any sort like that.
What is go keep going.
Oh, yes, anything that would be CPQ heavy, such as adding a bundle or things of that sort, would definitely happen on the opportunity level. And then anything else that need to be added, if a product needs to be added, would possibly be added at the order two level, but we'd be done with CPQ at that point in time.
So this custom order object is the end of the road.
Yes, let's say the custom order object.
How about we do this? Let's take my fancy, now well-lit whiteboard. And we will, I've already documented this. This was me thinking through when I want to show and hide various buttons on the quote based on where we are in the approval process. So I've already documented this in a spreadsheet. We don't need to worry about that right here. So I can erase. Let's start with better opportunity. And I have a quote. And we're saying that we want to create a custom order object that will capture what's done on the opportunity.
Correct.
Okay. So we're moving from here to here. I assume that the relationship would be one opportunity could theoretically create multiple orders, but we'll wait on that.
Actually, one opportunity is going to create one order.
Okay. So we're only going to create one. Okay. What is the reason for not using this standard order object that has been enhanced with CPQ fields? Genuine question. I'm not being sarcastic. Mostly.
I know, and I'm deciding can we not record this part if I'm going to say all this?
I will pause the recording for this.
Okay, fair enough.
And we're back after. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, John, just to expand on this. So, can this information be, if this is only to be accessed by certain people, can this be done through like a report or a dashboard instead of creating a totally different object?
Now, you often need access to the object to view the same data in a report, unless you were to export the data to another system, which brings up a story of a friend of mine who has CPQ, and they were running into an issue where a bunch of users had access to subscriptions, but they had licenses for this many people, but this
Mhm.
many people had access to subscription data. And Salesforce came back to this customer and said, you owe us $1 million for licenses because you have way more people accessing this data than you're paying for. And my friend is quite frustrated because they're saying, this is ridiculous. They only access this data in this one scenario, and it's not all the time, and it's only a few records at a time or whatever. And that's their argument. My argument, it's not my money. I don't really care. But in principle, if you are granting access to data and functionality and such, and you're not paying for it, that's stealing, which violates the terms of service. And if a company like Salesforce or any software company finds out that you are violating the terms of use, they can turn off your whole org. They can just say, this org is inactive until they pay up. And now your whole business is no longer using whatever tool because you try to get around the licensing. So we might have a couple of different things here in the scenario that you presented. Maybe it's like my friend where they're granting access to data and functionality that they're not paying for, which violates the terms of service that both parties, Salesforce and the customer, agreed to say, you have this many licenses. We agree. We're going to use this many licenses. Some of this is just, it's in good faith, because there are ways around this stuff. Because I could send a daily export of subscription data to a data warehouse and do my reporting off of that. It's not technically violating the terms of use. I'm using my subscription, but it's like the principle of it. And I don't like to overpay for software myself, but if I'm going to use a piece of software or any tool, hell, this water bottle, I'm not just going to take it off the shelf and say, well, but I'm not really using it a lot, so I don't expect to pay for it. I don't think this company's going to care. You know, oh, you only drink from it sometimes? Never mind. Don't pay us for the water bottle. That's not how this works. If you want to use the thing, you pay for the thing. But it could be a completely different scenario. It could be a scenario where maybe what we're tracking here isn't an order. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's a project. Maybe what they really need to do is figure out how to generate an invoice. Maybe what they need to do is, I don't know, create a resource plan for something. Whatever it is. And they don't need all of that data. Maybe that's the scenario. It sounds like there's a lot more under the surface that needs to be discussed and figured out. But there's that scenario, and then there's another story where I was on Reddit one day, in the Salesforce subreddit, and someone had posted that they were trying to save money on CPQ licenses, and they were asking for advice on replicating the data model. Now, when you factor in CPQ and billing and advanced approvals, there are over 100 objects involved. I think CPQ alone has more than 50 objects involved. And this person is wanting to replicate the whole data model, the entire data structure on top of having CPQ in their org. And for all these different transactions that are happening, copy it into these custom objects so that they don't have to pay for CPQ licenses. And CPQ, Salesforce licenses, is not cheap. I'm not going to pretend for a moment that Salesforce is cheap or affordable. You spend a lot of money when you decide to use Salesforce. However, what is the cost of time, energy, and money to create a duplicate data model in your system? Not to mention the technical debt and architecture nightmare that's going to create. To the point where you just spend the money on the licenses. My God. Do the math, folks. It's going to take you hundreds of hours to replicate, thousands of hours probably to replicate all of these objects. And then the fields, I mean, the objects alone, you have more than 50 objects. There are dozens, if not 100 plus fields on some of these objects. You're going to replicate all that, and then you're going to create automation around all of it to copy paste everything. Good Lord. Why would you do that? That sounds like a horrible idea. Just spend the money on licenses. It's cheaper. So you really need to, in decisions like this, we really have to think across we got to broaden our thinking beyond just, well, I don't want to spend X number of dollars for more licenses. It's a more complex decision than that. It's, who actually needs access to this data? Everybody thinks they need access to this data. Everybody wants access to this data. Everybody wants to feel important. So they want to feel like, oh, I need access to this data because I'm super important. And that's those same folks who access the data that first day of go live and then they never touch it again, right? How many times have we seen it where some executive goes, oh, I have to have this field over here, and it's absolutely critical to run the business. And you create the field, and then you run a field trip on it later or something, and you analyze the field utilization, you see that one record contains a data point in that field because they filled it out for that one customer and never touched it again. Nobody on their team touched it again. And essentially it was orphaned from the first day. And you end up with hundreds of these fields in these systems. So who does the data need to exist at all? Let's start with that. Does the data already exist? If not, do we need to create it? If we need to create it, who needs access to it? And I guarantee you, it's not everybody who thinks they need access to it. Most people are never going to touch it. I mean, hell, for most of my clients, the CEO of the business doesn't ever log into Salesforce. Why? Because they tell their admin, hey, can you just schedule this report to send me an email? Or I can make you a dashboard that shows you all the shit and you log into Salesforce and there it is right for you. But no. You want to run off of an email inbox. My God, I roll. And no, I'm not going to apologize to the CEOs out there who want to run their entire business off of an inbox. It's silly. Anyway, so does the data need to exist? Who needs access to it? When do they need access to the data? All of those W questions, when do they need access to the data? How often do they need access to the data? Maybe they only need access to this data once a quarter. Is that something that's worthy of building this whole convoluted custom thing just to do that? Or is this something where once a quarter, somebody does some sort of data export, massages a spreadsheet a little bit, and then shows them the summarization with some pivot tables? I don't know. Maybe it's something you could build with the dashboard and you could schedule the dashboard to send to them via email or posts, and you could post dashboard widgets to Slack or some shit like that. I don't know. But getting more specific about it is going to help. And we need to help, especially as consultants, we need to help our clients think strategically about the business overall, because it's so easy to get hung up on like, well, I don't want to pay this much money for software licenses. Okay. Would you rather spend the same, if not more money, hiring consultants to come in and build a whole convoluted custom solution that's not going to be well documented because you're going to steal from the documentation part of the budget so you can build more shit and then not actually do user acceptance testing, and then you're going to end up with a shitty go live because you didn't want to pay for like change management? Yep, that's exactly what we want to do. Let's do it. So anyway, I don't know if that answers the question. It probably doesn't. Feel free to schedule more time with me if you need. But that would be my answer to that, is think real hard about deviating from the standard objects. What is the best way to approach this problem? And maybe we truly can't afford the licenses. Okay. Maybe we need to scale back what we're trying to do on this project. You know, everybody wants $1 million project for the cost of a Big Mac, you know? It's just not possible. Sometimes we have to make the hard decisions and say, well, we're just not going to do this right now. We're going to make this phase 2. We're going to roll this out later. Maybe this doesn't need to happen at all anymore. I don't know. But that concludes today's sermon on licensing. Pay for the damn licenses. I know it sucks. I don't like to do it either. But the alternative is for me to do everything myself, build a whole convoluted custom thing, and then a year from now, regret that decision and say, damn, I should have just paid for the licenses because this thing is a dumpster fire. So you got that. Anyway. Well, but there's no clear-cut right answer for the question. Does that help at all? Probably not.
You know what, Very helpful, as always you are.
I try to be. I just tell it like it is. People may not like what I say, but if they trust what I say, that's what I care about. I was going to model it out in a document, but I think we've kind of achieved most of it. Because what we're looking to do is we're trying to create something at the end of this whole process, and we're using our quote data, quote line data to create this thing. It sounds like, maybe not. So what is this? Is it actually an order, or is it something completely different that we don't, maybe it's not an issue at all. Maybe it should be a custom object. I don't know. I don't have enough context. But those are some considerations I would keep in mind. And if the only reason that we're creating this is because we don't, is because, well, we don't want to pay, we're trying to get Salesforce Sales Cloud licenses for a Salesforce platform license price, no go. That is ingredients for disaster long term. It's kind of like when companies do the same thing when they don't want to pay for Sales Cloud license, so they make a custom opportunity object, they make a custom lead object, they make a custom, they're building all this custom stuff. What's the natural conclusion of this? If we take it to the extreme, the logical end is that they have rebuilt Sales Cloud from scratch. Why? Pay for the damn licenses. Yes, I know it's expensive, but you know what's more expensive? Building a custom tool that you ultimately have to scrap and cut over anyway. Do you want to pay for Sales Cloud licenses now or later? Pick. If you pay for them later, you're going to pay double because you're going to have to unwind all the shit you built in the meantime. You're going to have to restructure all sorts of stuff. It's rarely worth it to deviate that far from the norm, especially if it's a standard process and things like that. Anyway, hopefully that helps. That said, let's resume the PB&J sandwich unless you have objections. Cool. I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. All right, you can see my screen. Let me move your friendly faces up under my webcam so that it can look like I'm talking directly to you, Juanis. Should feel personal. Look at that. I'm getting all this camera practice. My next career move will be into acting. I really want to make no money. All right. Last week, we talked about our products. I made some changes to page layouts and stuff. I also deactivated some products that I didn't want to use. And this is what we're dealing with. I could add all of these to my quote now and create a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Returning to my quotes tab, I can go here. Once again, we have these stupid buttons that I don't care about. And my actual button that I want to use is way down here. I'm probably going to change that on this call. But, you know. All right, we've created the quote. I go into my quote line editor. I click add products. I select all of my products. And here we go. I have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Oh, wait, no, I don't actually have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. What I really want to do, well, I want to get rid of this, and I want to get rid of this because I want strawberry jelly, and I want to use let's use wheat bread. Now I got a peanut butter. Nope, I don't quite have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich because I need 2 pieces of bread. Okay, great. Maybe I'll do 3 sandwiches. I want 3 sandwiches. Oh, wait. No, that means I'm going to need 6 pieces of bread. Oh, wait. No, I'm going to need 3 of those. I'm going to need 3 scoops of strawberry jelly. Yeah, now it's good. Okay. Well, the order's kind of weird. I want the sandwich up at the top. Well, and then I want my bread like this. There we go. Okay, now it kind of looks like a sandwich. Great. Oh, but I'd really like, I don't want to pay an extra if I calculate this. Wow, that's 3 sandwiches for $42. We're definitely in Brooklyn or San Francisco or Vancouver. So that's not very cool. Well, I think the bread should be included in the price, right? I mean, do I need to pay extra for bread? I've already paid $10 a piece for the sandwiches. Some of this stuff should be included. What am I gonna do? Man, that was a lot of extra work, wasn't it? I mean, if I decide I want to sell 4 of these sandwiches, well, now I got to go through 4 times 2 pieces of bread. That's going to be 8. Okay, now I got to update this to 4. And I got to update this to 4. This is like in those infomercials where it switches to black and white and you watch some guy fumble around with a hose and you're going, you idiot. It's not that hard to uncoil a hose. You're making this look way worse. You moron. Well, I'm that moron now. And I'm like, it's so difficult to configure a quote when I'm not using CPQ. Well, we're going to make this easier. But you see, this is where prior to CPQ, if I don't have these products connected together somehow, it's a lot of manual work. And then I have to decide, well, what if I want to give some discounts? Now I got to go through each line and give a discount. What if the discounts are different? Should they be different? Are they allowed to be different? Am I allowed to discount at all? Are any of these products included in the price of the sandwich itself? Maybe they are, maybe they're not. I don't know. Man, wouldn't it be great if we could find a simpler way to do that? Would you believe it if we can? With Salesforce CPQ. Let's start from here, though, with this concept, and we're going to simplify how we do this. I'm going to save this. After I add a quote line group, this is the old way. We're going to add another group. I'm going to call this the new way. And we're going to add our bundle. Once we package it together, we're going to add the same basic thing down here, and you're going to see how much easier this is once we implement with configuration. Questions so far? All right, so we saw that it's difficult to configure things the way you want. This is where a lot of the problems stem from for Salesforce customers when they decide to implement CPQ. They're saying, we got either too many products. We got a product for every single way this product could possibly be sold or consumed, in this case of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. That's too much stuff. It's too much to keep track of. We also don't have any control over how these things perform. We don't have control over the ratio between the different products. We want to simplify this and make this a much easier experience for the user. I, as the seller, am going to make a lot less mistakes. I don't want to have to think about all this different stuff. I want to make fewer mistakes. I want this to be easy. The seller is trying to find the shortest distance between them breathing and getting a paycheck for their full commission. If I have to do anything in between those 2 points, I'm going to be upset about it. What? I don't just exist and get my full OTE? Oh, man. No offense to the sellers out there, but let's be real. There's some corner cutting that happens out there, and that's part of our job. We're going to simultaneously make it more difficult or impossible to cut those corners, make those mistakes, skirt around the process, find our own rogue way to do things, while simultaneously making it easier to do things right, to price things automatically, to apply discounts. So we're trying to accomplish those two ends. We want to make it more difficult or impossible to do things wrong, and we want to make it super easy and almost enjoyable to do it right. If we do our job as CPQ administrators, architects, consultants, develop whatever, then it should be a better experience for the end user and a better experience for us from maintaining the solution.
Quick question, John.
Yeah.
So when you said the old way, so the old way, for me, it seems like without CPQ, you would try to do, but if it's in CPQ, would anybody do this way? I mean, it sounds
No.
so.
In fact, we're not going to let them do it this way. Once we implement fully with CPQ, we're not even going to see these other ingredients. When I click add products, I'm going to see one thing. I'm going to see a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That's it.
Right.
Because that's really the only thing I'm selling. Right now, we see all of these things because I have to. I don't have CPQ. I mean, I have CPQ obviously in this org, but before we were using CPQ, we would just have all of these products in here, and then you have to go hunt and peck and find the different ones that you need and add them. And then you got to make sure the ratios are correct. And then every single quote then has to be reviewed because you don't know if somebody did it wrong. Well, if
Right.
I did it wrong and maybe Juanis has just reviewed a dozen of these quotes and he's corrected a bunch of things, he might miss an error that I did, or he might make an error based on my error, and now the quote's really wrong. And by the time we send it downstream, the accounting's going like, what is this? We're not supposed to, this is not how this works. Product management goes, what are you doing? Fulfillment is like, they get this and they go, we don't sell this combination of stuff. What are you doing? So we're going to avoid all those different mistakes.
Do you see implementations where such basic configuration mistakes are made? And it seems
Oh, yeah. Well, because not most companies aren't going to have the 7 products or whatever that we have here. They're going to have hundreds.
right.
Some have
Sure.
thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds, millions of product records. So if we have all of that, I mean, we absolutely need to implement controls around it. It's trying to strike this balance at all times of that freedom and control, because they're opposites. The more freedom you have, the less control you have, and the less stability you have. The more stability and control you have, the less freedom you have. It's the same thing with business, with politics, with jujitsu, with everything. Those two things are opposites, and we're trying to find that nice balance between the two. I want to control enough of the system that the user can't make any business crippling mistakes. But at the same time, I want to give them enough freedom of choice that they actually have some say in the matter. Otherwise, they're just an order taker. I can't do anything about it. No, we want to leverage the fact that we have human beings who are out there speaking with customers, trying to find the best thing for them, and they're working with them. They're trying to collaborate on what's a good deal here. But if we completely lock it down, well, then the seller's demotivated because they can't do anything about it. They're just, well, this is my life. I have no control over this. But we want to avoid a do whatever you want scenario as well, because that doesn't end well for anybody either. We're trying to balance those two at all times. The way we're going to do that here is we're going to start building out a bundle structure for our peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And a bundle is simply a group of products that are sold together. That's it. You see it everywhere. You see it from purchasing computers where you can get those upsells and cross sells at the end of the deal. You see it when you're buying a car. You see it when you're going to IKEA. You see bundling when you go to a restaurant. You go to a restaurant and, well, you could get the spaghetti dinner, or you can get tonight's special, which is an appetizer. It's the spaghetti dinner, it's a dessert, and it's a glass of wine for whatever price. Okay, great. I'll just get that bundle because I save a little bit of money. It's all the stuff I want to order anyway. It makes it easy. Great. The first thing I'm going to do here is create the categories of products that I'm going to sell. In the case of the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I'm going to create features, product features. These are those categories for the bread, the butter, and the jelly. I'll create the first one for bread, because until I have bread, I can't really do anything else, right? Otherwise, I mean, a 3-year-old would love a glop of peanut butter in one hand and a glop of jelly in the other, and then they can just smother it over their face. They'll be so happy. But we're not trying to do that. We're selling to sophisticated Brooklynites who want to pay $37 for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'm just going to keep making fun of Brooklyn, mostly because I look like I should live there. All right, here's my feature. I'm calling it bread. The feature name is a visual element in the screen that we're going to see a little bit later, but the user, the end user, is going to see this. We want to be thoughtful in how we name our product features and our products and other things too, but we want to be thoughtful about the features because they're visual elements. How can I use these different visual elements to simplify the process of quoting for the reps? This is one thing I would love to see more in software in general, Salesforce, more specifically and most specifically in CPQ, because a lot of times we end up with situations where the architect or the developer or consultant, admin, whatever goes, yeah, but it works. Yeah, but it looks like shit and it's hard to use. If it looks like shit and it's hard to use, no one's going to use it. They're going to fight it. They're going to resist it. Usability has to be in the forefront of our minds. Otherwise, all of our hard work is going to go out the window. As we've seen with clients who you spend all this time working with them and they go, we're not going to do that after all. But if we make the solution so compelling where they go, please, can you roll this out faster? Which is what's happening with one of my other clients. We're doing a CPQ implementation. The admin has shown some examples to the sales team, and the sales team is going, wait, is this ready yet? Can we use it? Oh, it's not? Oh, when's it going to be done? And then other departments are already going, hey, can we be next? That's where we want to be. They see it. They see how easy this is, and they go, wow, can we do that too? That'd be amazing. That's where I want to be. I want to pull them towards me. I don't want to force the change on them. I want them begging for the change. Numbering, whether it's product features, price rules, product options, all this other stuff, the best or standard practice is to number in increments of 10. And the reason we number in increments of 10 is that instead of having to renumber everything later, if I want to squeak something in, because this number is going to tell us vertically on the page how high or low is this going to be. The bigger the number, the lower on the page. Well, if I decide I got numbers 1, 2, and 3, but then I want something higher than 1, well, I have to renumber 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and then I got to add my record for number 1. Whereas if I do 10, 20, 30, I could just pick another number, say 5, and I could insert that above. That's why we're doing this. Minimum options. This tells us or answers the question, at a minimum, how many options can they choose? In this case, it's bread, white bread or wheat bread. Those are the choices, so they must choose at least one. But they can choose no more than one. You must choose a bread, but you cannot choose more than one type of bread. What this will do in the screen is it will create a radio button as the visual element rather than checkboxes. So the user very clearly sees, radio button, I can choose one of these things. That's it. We'll worry about categories later, but categories is another visual element we can add to the configuration screen, which we'll see in a little bit, that allows me to, it helps me further organize the screen in a way that's intuitive to the user. We'll worry about discount schedules when we get to pricing. Option selection method is null by default, but you could set one. I can explain some of these later. For now, we'll use click, or we don't even need to do that. We could use it null. It will use click as the default value, pulling from the product, which is currently set to click, I believe. These other field sets, these lookups to field sets, we can talk about those later, but right now, we don't care. I just want to know, I have bread, I must choose one, but I can only choose one, and it's the first thing that appears, so it's the number 10. Save and new. Now I'm going to create my second feature. The second feature is going to be for the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Peanut butter comes first. So let's call this butters or butter. This is in second. This is a second visually. As far as butter, I have crunchy and creamy peanut butter. So I must choose one of them, and I can only choose one of them. Finally, I have jelly. Number is 30. I must choose strawberry or grape. We can change these values later if we want, depending on how the business requirements change. Just for funsies, I might change some of these business requirements to make it more interesting, but this is where we're going to start. I have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. There are 3 categories of products that I sell inside the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That's bread, butter, and jelly. From there, I'm going to associate the specific ingredients, white bread or wheat bread, crunchy, creamy, peanut butter, strawberry, grape jelly, with each of the features inside of the broader peanut butter and jelly sandwich to start tying everything together. Before we get to the ingredients, are there any questions about the features?
Good.
Fantastic. We're almost out of time, and I have another call at the end of this, so I'm going to build the first option on this call, and we will continue in the next call. Sound good? Great.
Yep.
Going back to the peanut, that will also let me demo at the very end what this is going to start to look like. Now we have the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I see that I have my 3 categories of products here, and at this point, I'm ready to start adding ingredients. For now, we're going to worry about the options related list. I'll talk about options 4 on another call. This is to say an option is a component or a piece of the larger thing. So if I'm buying a car, the wheels, the specific wheels that I want, or if I'm buying a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, the specific ingredients that I'm choosing. The thought process is very similar here. The numbering system is going to be the same. For each feature, I start over at 10. What is my quantity for this? I'm thinking bread. For every sandwich, I need 2 pieces of bread. I cannot change, can I change the quantity or not? No, I don't want to change the quantity. So the quantity is not editable. I want to select one of this option by default. I don't want to require it. Selected means I'm pre-selecting this for the user. Required means the user must add this. They cannot remove it. So you'll see it grayed out and disabled. Minimum quantity is irrelevant here because I said you get 2 pieces of bread and you can't add more. You cannot change the quantity. So minimum quantity and maximum quantity, those are irrelevant. We'll talk about discount schedules later. The optional SKU, here's where I'm going to say white bread. Now I want that white bread visually to sit inside the bread feature, which of course doesn't actually show unless I search for it. Oh, you're going to be like that right now? Seriously? Really? Okay. Let's do it this way. Since Salesforce is being stupid, I'm going to go to bread so that I have now looked at the record. Now I'm going to go back to the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, go to create the option that I wanted to create in the first place. 10 to white bread. Are you serious?
Maybe case sensitive? I don't
No.
know.
I don't, maybe. If it is, that's even dumber.
No.
Seriously? What the hell? Okay. I'll create a new one. This is weird. All right. This fields must be complete. Oh. You finish that sandwich. Save. Right? Okay. There's my feature. Component. Component means that the quantity is proportional. I could talk more about this on the next call. But now I see that it shows. Interestingly enough, for whatever reason, I now have 2 features because it would not reference my other one. Just for the sake of argument. And now, because this is stupid, now it shows. Lightning! That's what I blame, because lightning sucks. I'll say it. I don't care. They were launched Lightning when I was a baby admin, and it still sucks. So, way to go, Salesforce. Anyway, there's probably some caching issue. Now that the handle has been jiggled, let's see what happens if I say butter. Okay, great. And jelly is going to work now too. Why that happened, I don't know. I've never seen that before. But that's Salesforce is
You're too
easy.
fast. You're too fast.
Yeah, right. And now as I go into the quote, I'll do a quick demo. Boom, I've got this. We go to add that peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Here's our old way. Here's our new way. I select the sandwich. Now that I have options, it takes me into the configuration screen. Well, I'll go into the configuration screen here. I'll make that adjustment. We start to see the structure of the configuration take place. We've got bread, quantity 2. I could select this. Now when I save, I'm going to see, because my other configurations, I haven't fully built this out yet. It's going to throw errors. But this is where we're going to start next week. Until then, have a great weekend, and I will talk to you then.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.